We're going to start our context section by looking at detention. Now, the kind of detention I'm talking about is this. Increasingly in the 1980s, more and more student leaders, activists and children of a very young age were detained without access to lawyers or their parents. Once in detention, they were extremely vulnerable and had little protection against police brutality. By 1986, it was estimated that about 8,000 detainees were below the age of 18, many of them in their early teens, but some as young as 7 to 10 years old. Children were subjected to the same conditions in detention as adults. They were often tortured during interrogation and were held for long periods of time. Tommy says this: anybody accused of it is put on trial in your courts. It is treason. And if found guilty, they get hanged. Many of my people have been found guilty and have been hanged. Those hangings we call murder. So I want to look at the idea of hanging. Between 1961 and 1989, about 134 political prisoners were executed by the apartheid government at Pretoria Central Prison. 2 decades in particular, the 1960s and the 1980s, witnessed many political executions. While Pretoria Central Prison was the main site for executions, it was not the only facility in the country to enact these murderous acts. The last person to be hanged for a political offence was Jeffrey Busman Mcma, who was executed on the 29th of September 1989. Mcma, a member of the ANC, was accused of murdering a school teacher who was suspected of being an informer. There's a photograph of the hangman's noose. I don't think it's surprising that the ANC government abolished the death penalty. In our country, the death penalty has been used to control and suppress legitimate political opposition to a white racist regime. And I think the death penalty carries, for so many of us, that horror of how it was used. And I certainly think it's a good thing that it's gone. And then less serious, the Wapatsberg Pass, which has already been mentioned. It's a 33-kilometer high altitude pass between Graafrenet and Cradock in the Eastern Cape on the R61.